Hello, my name is Stacy Bishop, and this is my report on how distance education and learning theories can support a blended classroom. I'm going to start with this quote from Einstein: "Insanity doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results." I firmly believe that we cannot educate kids in the same method which we were educated. The future they face is unknown. We cannot prepare students for the future with the methods of the past. The future demands a new way of thinking. This is the why. The International Technology Standards for Education, or ISTE for START, is an organization that outlines what students, teachers, and administrators should be able to do with technology. These aren't mandated by any states, but they're generally used as guidelines. These are two quotes I have from an article from Edutopia. It says, "If in the past 20 years we've gone from green screens to Google Glass, where will we be in the next 20? And how will we prepare our students for what has yet to be even imagined?" It is important that we're preparing students with skills that are about learning. We have no idea what the future holds, but we need to develop learners who can adapt and learn anything that comes along. The second bullet is about screen reading. There are several studies that have come out that attempt to see if reading on a screen is the same as reading from paper. I'm going to spoil it for you. It's not. We use different parts of our brain to read from a screen, particularly when that screen is scrolling. We can't use visual mapping. Knowing that most college materials and career-related readings and standardized testing all happen digitally, it's important that students are taught and practice this skill. And lastly, more and more jobs are online. College is available online, and it seems to be doing very well. I can't predict the future, but I'm willing to bet my career that any student who cannot function in an online environment is not going to fare very well in college or career. In this class, we've been talking about learning theories. So whether online or in person, good teaching is good teaching. And the theories on learning are basically the same. So I'm going to talk about behaviorist, constructivist, cognitive, and connectivism. And in addition to the learning theories listed here, I'm going to provide some examples showing what that learning theory may look like in a traditional in-person classroom, as well as an online or a distant learning format. The idea is that shifting to a more online learning environment does not diminish the learning. The learning is happening in much the same way as a traditional classroom. So first, behaviorist theory. It's an approach to psychology based on the proposition that behavior can be researched scientifically without recourse to intermental states. What this looks like in a brick and mortar classroom are things like pre and post tests, comprehension checks, exit tickets, repetition. I think we all remember practicing our times tables till we were blue in the face, spelling tests. What this looks like in distance and online education is multiple choice questions after a passage, sequencing steps in a math problem, practicing times tables, comprehension checks, exit tickets. A lot of the same things work for both. Cognitive theory. What this looks like in a brick and mortar classroom, building words with letter tiles to practice phonics, math manipulatives. In online learning, it looks like puzzles, news articles, videos, things where you're able to kind of store your information in small chunks and then later for longer recall. Constructivist theory. This is building new knowledge based on prior experience. In a preschool classroom, this looks like structured imaginative play, such as building a tiny pizza parlor in your classroom. Solving a case, a murder case, a whodunit case, simulations, and field trips, I think, get underrated as a legitimate educational experience. In a distance online education, this looks like simulations, Google field trips, which are amazing, online science labs, geocaching. More on online science labs in a later slide. Connectivism. This is the newer theory that we had talked about, and it's learning through connecting, basically. The name is pretty self-explanatory, and the definition's there. So in in-person classroom, this looks like literature circles, interactive class notebooks. In more of an online format, looks like forums, blogs, things that people are talking and connecting. So we have these theories on how learning happens in many different environments, but what does that look like in a K-12 classroom? And how can these distant learning principles be applied? Kind of a best of both worlds scenario. We know that there are K-12 schools that are completely online, but the majority of students in America will still attend a brick and mortar school. So how can we get kids, teachers comfortable in that online environment? There are many commercial products that are limited in scope or subject, but offer a distance learning experience or online experience. Let's look at a few. Just to touch on a few, I'm going to go into them more later. I have KidBlog, which talks about more of a connectivist theory, ST Math, which is more of a behaviorist model, Newsela is a cognitive model, and Gizmos is a constructive model. KidBlog. Blogging in general plays into the connectivist theory. In KidBlog, teachers set up blogs for students in a closed environment, meaning that they're not viewable to the public. Students are encouraged to interact with each other online. They can create and respond to posts. It allows the incorporation of media. And it demonstrates this connectivist theory by fostering connections that students make over content. ST Math. ST Math falls into the behaviors theory. There's this little penguin named Gigi, and it navigates through puzzles related to math concepts. There's no numbers and there's no language. It's all about getting Gigi to the other side. This expected behavior of moving Gigi across the screen is the same no matter what the student is working on. The obstacles are designed to help students build math behaviors that can then be translated into actual numbers or math problems. It employs a behaviorist model of also soliciting a specific skill base and practicing it until mastery. Newsela. Newsela is a product that I regularly use in my own classroom. It's news articles from major news sources that have been adapted for classroom use. You can change the reading level of the article so that students can access the material. The cognitive theory comes in with comprehension checks, customizable writing prompts, on-screen annotation. It allows students to store their notes in the article for later recall. It's a pretty cool program. Gizmos. Gizmos are science labs, but online. So in high school, we may have dissected a frog. You can actually dissect a frog on Gizmos. It's all digital. They can grow plants in different environments, kind of all the science labs that we may have grown up with. Live labs often aren't happening in classrooms now for many reasons, budget being one. So Gizmos at least lets students experiment with some of these learned concepts. They're demonstrating constructivist theory by taking what they've learned in class or in a book and applying it to an actual lab situation. This is just an example of a way that this could look in a real classroom. Because of No Child Left Behind, science and math are often lumped together into one kind of block of time in an elementary school classroom. So this would be a station rotation from a 4th grade classroom during that math and science block. Each group would rotate to these different stations for probably around 20 minutes, and students would be in homogeneous groups, meaning they're with other students that are at their same level in math or science. Independent work, as well as the small group instruction with the teacher, they would be leveled for the individual groups. So the stations are blogging, ST Math, independent work, working with the teacher, and science lab, which is Gizmos. It's incorporating a lot of the learning theories as well as a lot of the distance learning programs, but in a traditional classroom. The cool thing is everybody gets to do everything, but they do it with groups, which is great also if you have limited technology. So, in conclusion, distance learning principles can be applied to a traditional classroom. Even distance learning experiences can be applied to a traditional classroom. And students benefit from that, as most of the things in their future will also be online. So, with a little knowledge of theory and some creativity, the principles of distance education cannot just be used in a traditional classroom, but can become an integral part of the curriculum.